Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Institute for Personal Development, Kriya Yoga Ashram, where total consciousness is the new frontier.
Kriya Yoga is union of the individual with the divine. Join us as we explore the practices to initiate this process.
Good morning. Welcome to the Voice of Yoga. Let's talk consciousness. I am your hostess, Lisa Winton, and with me is Kenny Toy, also known as Swami Jayananda, founder of the Institute for Personal Development, located here in Hampton, New Hampshire. Good morning, Swami. Thank you for being here today. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing very well today. How about you?
Well, I'm doing great today, too. Thanks for asking. And we want to thank you all for tuning in. Today on The Voice of Yoga, we will talk about what it means to be spiritual and living under the government and protection of divine law. Listen as we explain accepting and living under the knowledge of the infinite spiritual body takes care of what seems to be a personal physical body. In this show, we will behold, allow, and realize the beauty of holiness and the perfection of being as a demonstrable principle. Welcome to the Voice of Yoga. We are talking consciousness. Join the Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance to get the light in your soul and discover eternal life. Swami, the title of today's show is Finding the Forever You. Well, the first word finding makes it sound like we have some instruction to do.
Yeah, the thing we want to understand is we are finding the forever us. We're not creating. It's already here. We're discovering what has been already established for each and every one of us.
So how do we go about this finding process? And then maybe more specifically, what is the forever you?
Yeah, here we're looking for what we've been saying, spiritual identity, the changeless state of being, the truth of being, the divine creation. And the way that we're going to go about it here is we're going to begin with the understanding, and this is a quote from Herb Fitch, God did not create that which can die. And we also have a quote here from Mary Baker Eddy, matter has no life to lose and spirit never dies. We're talking about finding spiritual identity and oneness with the one perfect divine life. And that it's right here, it's right now, it's functioning. And we must be conscious of it in order to activate it in our experience.
Well, we were talking earlier, and you were saying that there was a really good example from Herb Fitch about a plane crash that demonstrates the line that you said from him, God did not create that which can die. Could you review that with our listeners?
Yeah, in his work, Revelation of St. John, and this was class 20A, where he talks about a plane crash that happened with a football team from Wichita, Kansas. Anyway, he goes through this whole scenario, and he asks a lot of questions that we would typically ask. Why did the plane go down? Was the pilot unlicensed? Was the plane faulty? And then he goes on and he says, these are all the wrong questions, because what we really want to do is question our concept of God. The pilot knew the plane was in trouble. When did God know the plane was in trouble? Because if God knew the plane was in trouble, surely he would have came to the rescue of those on the plane. And he really lays it out very well, gives us a nice comparison between the old theology and the message of the Christ. And it's pretty evident we really don't understand the message of the Christ because we're really not conscious of the divine creation. I'm going to read a little bit of it where he says, there is no such thing as a material body. There is only a material concept of body. Now here you are and your son has just been killed on a Colorado mountainside, and you're being told there is only a material concept of body. It doesn't sit very well with you. Nevertheless, even though it's sour in the belly, God did not create that which can die. And so we have to change our concept of our sun, our concept of our own body, and see the difference between a body and a concept of body. Your body is the temple of the living God. It cannot die on a hillside. Then it cannot be this body, but what is this body? Let us finally understand what this body is. This body is your consciousness made visible. Your consciousness is simply not conscious of your true body. Your consciousness is looking at your true body, your spiritual body, but it doesn't receive the fullness of your spiritual body inside its consciousness, because your consciousness is finite. And I'll stop there. And I really like where he says your consciousness is simply not conscious of your true body. And this is why we want to find the true body. We want to find the true sense of self, who we are. And by the same token, we don't want to get another concept and put that in place of the old concept, because we wouldn't have the same privileges that would come with the truth. And I guess the real question is, how do I know what I'm calling spirit or God is the one true God? Because consciousness is experience. And we can use the physical body and the entire human experience as the check engine light on the dashboard of consciousness. So we use the testimony of our material senses because it's letting us know whether we are conscious of the divine creation, the infinite spiritual body, or we are conscious of the human mental counterfeit.
So we have to go from this limited concept to something much greater than that. So how do you recommend that we do that?
Basically here, we either sow to the flesh or we sow to the spirit. If we are finding lack, limitation, pain, discomfort, instability in our external experiences, we must understand that we are sowing to the flesh. We have a belief in matter or mind with a small m, mortal mind. We think. But if we sow to the spirit, we want to start with the divine creation, starting with the perfection of being. And if we are externalizing perfect health, happiness, peace, love, joy, goodness, kindness, gentleness, faithfulness, patience, temperance, these were the fruits of the Spirit. These are the things that we want to look for. To continue with what Herb Fitch was writing, I'll read a little bit more. And so outside your consciousness is the fullness of your body. And inside your consciousness is your limited concept of that body. That limited concept inside your consciousness is the body you walk around in. Your physical body is within your consciousness. It is not outside it. It is within it. And if your consciousness could expand and expand and expand to receive a wider, more truer understanding of your spiritual body, that realization would then change your physical form to that extent. End of reading.
But Swami, when he says that it would change the physical form to that extent, what is he trying to tell us there?
Spirit is a demonstrable principle. It's not just something that we believe in or ask for favors, but Spirit holds the template for perfect creation. And if we are conscious of it and we're not competing with it by sowing to the flesh or limited by our material and mental moorings, then we can externalize the divine picture as our experience, but we really have to get out of the way in order to do that. I'll continue a little more with what Herb Fitch has to say. Meanwhile, until you can do that, your spiritual form is unrecognized by your consciousness, and your limited awareness of that spiritual form within your consciousness is converted into a concept called physical body. Between your physical body, which is finite and mortal, and your spiritual body, which is infinite and immortal, is that line of your consciousness. And to the capacity that you can receive the truth of your being, to that degree do you manifest this form. Later, you will manifest a spiritual form when your consciousness is spiritual. End of quote.
Well, it certainly sounds like we have A plus B equals C here. He's really telling us you can't have one without the other.
Yeah, that's the thing I really like about divine science, is that it is a science. It is a demonstrable principle. You can prove the presence of the divine creation when you are conscious of it, rather than going on believing and thinking that you know yourself spiritually when you're not proving the presence. Because what he means by manifest a spiritual form really means you are externalizing the perfection of being. And perfect here means flawless, eternal, changeless. But you must be conscious of it first. Consciousness is experience. How we think is what we become. And then the next thing that you want to really understand is that you can't find it with the light on the dashboard. You can't find it with that mortal mind. The mind that we have accepted to get us through this lifetime can only bring forth the finite image of the mental concept. And so we have to repent, is what it says in the Bible. We have to think differently. And in this process of thinking differently, we really stop thinking. We make that mind just an avenue of awareness for the presence of the divine creation, which is invisible and intangible to material sense. And in silence and in stillness, we watch, we wait for this spiritual light to dawn on our consciousness and reveal the truth of our being.
So just for clarification, Swami, so when I'm looking out, whether at my own body or what my eyes behold people in front of me, I'm actually looking at what is in their consciousness by looking at their bodies?
Yeah, it's complicated because we're looking at world thought made visible and then televised into your individual consciousness and accepted as your thought. We're at this sense level of awareness. And that's one of the things that we want to learn. We must live above corporeal sense, above duality, above the mental recreation. And in order to do this, we have to have a willingness to be whole, to accept spiritual identity. And then we also have to let go of our material moorings and our mental moorings so that we can rise into spiritual awareness, into the divine creation, which is above the material sense level. And there's a lot that goes on in order for us to find this forever self.
So we just have to discern the information that's coming in from our senses. We want to try to interpret that with our spiritual senses, not with our material sense.
Right, and this is what the Bible calls judge righteously. Not to judge things based by the appearance, but to judge them based on the knowing of the truth. There is only one life, and it's perfect, changeless, eternal, absolute goodness. And independent of what our material senses are presenting, we must have fidelity to that divine creation. And awareness of that divine creation must change the external picture. Probably the biggest barrier today is we think we're spiritual, but we're not proving its presence.
Well, we're going to pause right here to hear a word from our sponsor. So listeners, we'll be back with you in just a few moments. Kriya Yoga Theory 1, Human Development and the 8 Essential Stages of Kriya Yoga. This program is a comprehensive course that will help you get your arms around the science of Kriya Yoga. It provides a clear understanding of the goals and objectives behind yoga, along with the physics of spirituality. It includes the practices, supportive concepts of Kriya Yoga, and the process in human development, apotheosis, the process of the human becoming divine. A complete guide on how to become a human in the adult state. Get the light in your soul and experience the simplicity and joy of union with the divine. This course is available in live classes at the ashram or online with 8 videos or 4 CDs. Visit our website, www.ipdtransform.com, for more information. Welcome back. For those of you just joining us, you're listening to The Voice of Yoga, and we are talking consciousness. So I'd like to learn more about how what's in my consciousness is going to reflect what my physical appearance is like. Can we delve maybe a little bit deeper with that?
Yes, we really start to drill down with this and working with that formula, how we think is what we become. And then we find the mind we're using to get us through this lifetime can't bring forth this divine image. That the perfection of being, it's right here, it's right now. The divine creation is functioning here and now, but we're not conscious of it. And what we are conscious of is this finite mental concept of it, and we continue to recreate or produce this false sense of existence, this cycle of death and rebirth, and we're under the law of karma. We believe in 2 powers. And to try and understand this, I have a little bit more of what Herb Fitch wrote in Revelations of St. John, and I'll read it. And so we're in the division between spirit and matter because our consciousness is a material consciousness. And that's how we get a material sense of body. We do not have a material body, we have a material sense of body. And the bodies we see are within the consciousness of each individual, walking where your eye reports a form. There goes a form, but it's a form in somebody's consciousness which you are accepting as a form. If that individual's consciousness was spirit, that form would not be there that way, but instead a body of light would appear there. Always the converter is the consciousness, and the density of that consciousness makes the density of the form. Your body is formed of a fabric, and that fabric is your consciousness. When your consciousness is a spiritual consciousness, then the fabric of your body will be spirit. When your consciousness is mental, then the fabric of your body is the mental fabric, which appears as matter. End of reading.
So I know we've talked about this in other shows before about the physical, mental, and spiritual bodies. So interesting that he talked about when your consciousness is mental, then the fabric of your body is the mental fabric, which appears as matter. So it still seems like it's keeping us bound in this false sense of existence.
Yeah, and this is what we talk about when we speak about the physics of spirituality. Like attracts like. That if I am attracted to things visible and tangible, then I am of material fabric. And so I would be attracted to matter. But if I am attracted to that which is invisible but tangible, which is the mental fabric that he talked about, and this is one of the biggest barriers to discovering your forever self, is we make a shift from material to mental, and we think that's a vertical leap. But the physical appearance is a mental image. And so you've only made a lateral move, and you're still at that level of consciousness that we talked about, sense level awareness. You're still living in duality with a belief in 2 powers. And in order for us to get this vertical leap, we really must be attracted to that which is invisible and intangible, which is spirit. Spirit is not dualistic. It is one, whole, complete. And to find your forever self, you really have to know yourself in the way that you are created by the Creator, which is spiritual. And how do you find that? Because you're looking with a mind that can't bring forth that image. So we have to stop thinking, forming thoughts and opinions based on information coming through our material senses. And then in silence and stillness, we wait for our spiritual senses to activate. And initially, this all begins with a belief in the divine creation and then letting go of your belief in matter and mind. The mind-body complex, the image that is appearing in your material senses, and not just dismissing it, but using it as your barometer, as the check engine light on the dashboard of your consciousness, because it's going to let you know if you're conscious of the divine creation or something else.
Well, so how do we take this information you just talked about, the physical, mental, and spiritual, and how do we relate this to that as a demonstrable principle as, say, healing?
Well, some of the indicators that I use is spirit is out of time, space, concept, belief. It's beyond thinking. It's beyond human will and personal sense. Because with positive thinking and a belief in what it is that you're doing, mentally we can change finite bad to finite good. We can have an effect on this appearance. We know that. But we're also learning there's a difference between a lateral movement and a vertical leap. And in order for us to attain this vertical leap, one of the indicators that I would use is, was it out of time? Spiritual healing typically is instantaneous because all healing on some level is just the revealing of the divine creation. Spiritual healing is the activity and the operation of the divine mind, the power of one revealing itself as an appearance. Because even Mary Baker Eddy, before her revelation, she had a healing. And I got this from a book called A World More Bright, and I'll read it. I gave the infant no drugs. Mary later wrote, held her in my arms a few moments while lifting my thoughts to God, then returned the babe to her mother healed. End of quote. All right, now, was that a mental healing or was it a spiritual healing? Well, the indicator is found initially that it was instantaneous, which is very different than if it was still in time. The other thing I really look for is no relapse. Again, mental healings, you can change finite bad to finite good, but it's still under the law of karma and it's still in the realms of time and space. So that healing could eventually become a problem again, or because it has a mental origin that is in the finite realm, it will resurface under a different symptom or appearance, a different condition.
So, Swami, if God is everywhere and in everything, how come we don't see it?
We don't see God because we're looking with a mind that works on contrast. See, God is whole, it's complete. And we're looking with a mind that works in duality, works on a separated or divided consciousness. And I have something here from Herb Fitch, more of Revelations in St. John, and I'll read it. Now, this is the hypnotism, then, of mind. And so we see forms, we see baggage, but always God is the only substance, the only presence. And God presence is spirit, which we are discerning through the density of our consciousness. Now get that the bodies you see are not there. They're only in your consciousness. They are images in your thought. What is there is pure spiritual emanation, unseen by and untouched by the limitation of your finite consciousness. And so we're told to develop this consciousness through truth and meditation, to spiritualize it, to refine it, to uplift it, and to make it conscious of Christ. End of quote.
So it sounds like that's instruction right there from Herb, is to develop this consciousness through the truth.
Yeah, if we start with the truth, God is all, and all is good. That gives us a basis we can start to live from. You go back into consciousness is experience, and maybe even employ that little exercise that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Behold, allow, and realize. As you delve into this, beholding really implies that I'm not thinking, I'm knowing this truth. Allowing means that I'm not trying, striving, struggling, planning, or seeking. I'm resting and trusting in the activity and omnipresence of this perfection of being, and then realizing. Because consciousness of this divine creation, this perfection of being, calls into expression the beauty of holiness and the perfection of being. Because in the Bible it says, ask in my name and it shall be given. And how many of us are pleading and begging in the name of Jesus Christ, save my son, save my family, without any result? And so here we're learning maybe the reason is there's no power in words. But if you are conscious of the divine creation, and in order to be conscious of it, you must be in divine likeness. You must know yourself in the way that you are known. And all of this has an evidence procedure you want to follow. And because you put healing on the table, now you have a way of troubleshooting it. You're not just waiting to die to see if you go to heaven. You want to see if I'm conscious of the divine creation right here and right now, and then proving that to be true.
Swami, I see that we have some works here from Mary Baker Eddy that could also be pertinent to what we're talking about.
Yeah, I have something here from Miscellaneous Writing, page 84, 13 to 16. The man of sorrows knew that the man of joys, his spiritual self or Christ, was the Son of God, and that the mortal mind, not the immortal mind, suffered. End of quote. I also have something here from Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, page 83. I'll read it. There is mortal mind reading and immortal mind reading. The latter is a revelation of divine purpose through spiritual understanding, by which man gains the divine principle and explanation of all things. Mortal mind reading and immortal mind reading are distinctly opposite standpoints from which cause and effect are interpreted. The act of reading mortal mind investigates and touches only human beliefs. Science is immortal and coordinate neither with the premises nor with the conclusions of mortal beliefs. End of quote. So again, more and more we're seeing, am I sowing to the flesh or am I sowing to the spirit? Do I believe in a finite mortal sense of life, or do I believe in a forever self?
So, I mean, the quote from Mary Baker Eddy, when you said the man of sorrows, we're talking about the man of sorrows is supposed to mean the mortal man, is that correct?
Yeah, your finite sense of self that suffers and has an expiration date, which is not your forever self. It's not the truth of your being. And what we're learning is this outer world of sense and this inner world of spirit become one when divine truth is your only consciousness.
Well, we're going to start breaking down our show for today, so listeners, be sure to visit the website www.ipdtransform.com. On the homepage, when you see the fading banner Blog Talk Radio, if you click that, that directs you to the Blog Talk Radio Show catalog page. And then by clicking on the products tab and then online classes, that will direct you to all the classes that Swami has available. So with that, Swami, do you have any other final thoughts about today's program?
Well, I would like to encourage people to join the Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance to get the light in your soul and discover eternal life. Namaste.
Thank you for listening to our program, The Voice of Yoga. This is Lisa Winton, along with Swami Jayananda, signing off. Have a wonderful Kriya Yoga kind of day. Namaste.